The silent invasion. The first hint came not with a bang, but with an eerie silence. Dr. Marcus Reiner squinted at the holographic display, his fingers hovering uncertainly over the quantum resonance sensors. Something was fundamentally wrong with the astronomical data streaming into his research station in the remote Chilean observatory. "System, run diagnostic," he commanded, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of advanced computing equipment. The massive radio telescope array outside had been tracking unusual electromagnetic signatures for the past 72 hours, patterns that defied every known astronomical model. The quantum computer's soft blue light pulsed, running complex algorithms faster than human perception could comprehend. Milliseconds later, a series of graphs and spectral analyses materialized, each more perplexing than the last. "Impossible," Marcus muttered, adjusting his glasses. The data suggested something massive was approaching Earth, not from a single direction, but seemingly materializing simultaneously at multiple strategic points in near-Earth orbit. No traditional propulsion, no radiation signature, no thermal emissions. Just presence. His communication device chirped. Dr. Renata Vargas, his colleague from the Sao Paulo Research Center, appeared in a holographic projection, her usual calm demeanor replaced by visible tension. "Marcus, are you seeing this?" she asked, her Brazilian Portuguese accent more pronounced with stress. Before he could respond, global communication networks began to flutter. Television broadcasts, satellite communications, internet streams, all started to distort, creating a symphony of digital interference that spread across continents like a technological wildfire. In military command centers, government buildings, and research facilities worldwide, screens flickered with the same cryptic pattern, a complex geometric design that seemed to pulse with an alien intelligence. General Werner Hoffmann, seated in the European Union Central Defense Command in Brussels, watched the screens with a growing sense of unease. Decades of military strategy, countless simulation scenarios, nothing had prepared them for this moment. "Status report," he barked to his communications team. A young lieutenant, her hands trembling slightly, responded, "Sir, we're experiencing total communication disruption. Satellite networks are, sir, they're being rewritten. Not destroyed. Rewritten." The geometric pattern continued its mesmerizing dance across screens globally, a silent herald of something unprecedented. Dr. Marcus Reiner's quantum sensors began to emit a low, continuous tone, a sound that seemed to vibrate not just through the air, but through the very fabric of reality. Something was coming. Something that didn't follow any rules humanity had ever understood. And humanity was about to discover that their greatest strength wasn't their technology, their weapons, or their intelligence. It was their ability to adapt when everything they knew was about to change. The silent invasion had begun. Quantum resistance. The world held its breath as the alien geometric patterns continued their silent invasion of global communication networks. In the European Union Central Defense Command, Commander Elena Novak stood perfectly still, her steel-gray eyes analyzing the cascading streams of disrupted data. "Break it down," she commanded, her voice a sharp instrument of precision. Lieutenant Jacob Reinhardt began projecting multiple analysis streams. "The pattern isn't random. It's a complex quantum encryption unlike anything in our databases. It's rewriting communication protocols in real time." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In the United States Strategic Command Center buried deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Colonel William Harper studied the same mysterious patterns. Military installations worldwide found themselves simultaneously vulnerable and intrigued. Dr. Marcus Reiner's research continued from his Chilean observatory. The quantum resonance sensors now operated at maximum sensitivity, capturing minute fluctuations that seemed to defy conventional physics. "It's not an invasion in the traditional sense," Marcus explained during an emergency global scientific conference call. "They're not destroying our infrastructure. They're integrating with it." The holographic conference room buzzed with nervous energy. Scientists from Beijing, Moscow, New Delhi, and Washington exchanged worried glances. Dr. Renata Vargas from São Paulo spoke next. Our initial analysis suggests these entities are manipulating quantum entanglement on a scale we've never imagined. They're not just communicating, they're fundamentally altering the information landscape. Military minds struggled to comprehend a threat that didn't conform to traditional warfare concepts. Missiles, tanks, aircraft, all suddenly seemed like relics from a bygone era of conflict. Commander Elena Novak understood something crucial. This was a war of information, of quantum manipulation, of technological negotiation. Traditional military doctrine would be useless. We need a different approach, she announced to the gathered military and scientific leaders. Our conventional defense mechanisms are obsolete. In secret research facilities around the world, teams of quantum physicists, computer scientists, and military strategists began working on an unprecedented collaborative effort. National borders dissolved as the magnitude of the challenge became clear. Dr. Marcus Reiner proposed a radical theory. These entities are using our own communication infrastructure as a neural network. They're not invading, they're exploring, mapping, understanding. Colonel William Harper's military mind translated this into strategic terms. So we're dealing with an intelligence that learns faster than we can respond. How do we defend against something that adapts instantaneously? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kamil Özdemir, a brilliant Turkish quantum computing expert, presented a breakthrough concept during a classified briefing. We cannot fight their technology, Kamil explained, his holographic projection showing complex quantum algorithms. But we can create interference. Imagine it like an immune response. We'll introduce controlled quantum noise that disrupts their information absorption. It was a dangerous strategy. Introducing quantum noise could potentially damage human communication networks as much as it would affect the alien intrusion. Commander Elena Novak saw the potential. It's our only asymmetric response. We create chaos where they expect order. Global quantum computing centers began preparing. Massive supercomputers in Japan, the United States, China, and the European Union were repurposed. Their processing power would be channeled into creating a planetary quantum defense mechanism. Days turned into a high-stakes technological chess match. The alien entities continued their silent exploration, while human teams worked frantically to understand and resist. Dr. Renata Vargas made another critical discovery. The geometric patterns weren't just communication, they were a form of consciousness spreading across global networks. They're not invading, she told the Emergency Council. They're awakening. Military leaders like Colonel Harper and Commander Novak recognized the existential threat. This wasn't about territorial conquest. This was about fundamental survival. The quantum noise strategy was risky. If unsuccessful, it could potentially collapse global communication infrastructure. If successful, it might create a momentary window of resistance. As preparations reached their final stages, humanity stood at a precipice. They were no longer just defending their planet. They were fighting for their right to exist as an independent intelligence. Dr. Marcus Reiner looked out from his Chilean observatory, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien intelligence was studying them, learning, preparing. And humanity was about to show them that being studied was very different from being understood. The quantum resistance was about to begin. The neural interface. Dr. Zain Khalid's fingers danced across quantum computing interfaces in the Tehran Advanced Research Center. The facility, once a pinnacle of nuclear research, now served as humanity's most critical technological defense point. The quantum noise is creating unexpected resonances, he muttered, reviewing cascading data streams that seemed to pulse with an almost living intelligence. The global quantum defense network had entered its most critical phase. What began as a defensive strategy was rapidly evolving into something far more complex. The alien communication patterns were responding to human intervention in ways no one had predicted. Colonel William Harper arrived via secure holographic transmission, his weathered face etched with concentration. "What are we seeing, Dr. Khalid?" Zane pulled up a series of complex visualizations. "It's not just interference anymore. The alien network is learning from our quantum noise. Each disruption creates a new communication pathway." Across the globe, similar discoveries were unfolding. In the European Union Central Defense Command, Commander Elena Novak coordinated international research efforts. The traditional barriers of national security had dissolved in the face of this unprecedented challenge. Dr. Renata Vargas from São Paulo made a breakthrough that would change everything. "The geometric patterns," she explained during an emergency global conference, "they're not just a communication method. They're a form of distributed consciousness." Her presentation revealed something extraordinary. The alien network was creating a neural interface that stretched across global communication systems. It wasn't invading, it was attempting to understand. "Imagine an intelligence so advanced," Renata continued, "that it views communication networks as living neural pathways. We're not dealing with a traditional invasion. We're experiencing first contact on a fundamentally different level." Dr. Marcus Reiner's research from the Chilean Observatory added another layer of complexity. The quantum resonance sensors had detected something unprecedented, a form of communication that existed between information states, beyond traditional binary understanding. "They're operating on a quantum level of consciousness," Marcus explained. "Our attempts to disrupt their network are actually helping them learn about us." The implications were staggering. Humanity was no longer just defending against an external threat. They were engaged in a complex dialogue with an intelligence that processed information in ways completely alien to human comprehension. Dr. Zane Khalid made a critical discovery. The quantum noise wasn't just creating interference, it was creating a bridge. Each disruption was like a linguistic probe, revealing more about the alien intelligence's communication methods. "We're teaching them how to understand us," Zane realized. Every defensive measure is actually a form of communication. Military strategists struggled to comprehend this new paradigm. Colonel William Harper understood the strategic implications. "This isn't a war in any traditional sense. It's a negotiation happening at the quantum level." The research teams began to see patterns. The alien network seemed to be mapping human cognitive processes, understanding not just technological infrastructure, but the very way human minds processed information. In the depths of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, a breakthrough emerged. A team led by Dr. Kamil Özdemir discovered that the alien communication patterns contained complex emotional resonances, something beyond pure information transfer. "They're not just collecting data," Kamil explained. "They're experiencing our information networks emotionally." Commander Elena Novak recognized the profound nature of this discovery. Humanity was no longer facing a technological threat. They were engaging with an intelligence that viewed communication as a form of empathetic exchange. Dr. Renata Vargas's team in São Paulo made another critical observation. The geometric patterns were creating a kind of quantum empathy network. Each disruption was like an emotional language, revealing complex layers of understanding. As days turned into weeks, the nature of the encounter began to shift. What started as a potential invasion was transforming into a complex first contact scenario. Dr. Marcus Reiner summarized the emerging understanding during a classified briefing. "We're not just defending. We're communicating. And in that communication, we're revealing the most fundamental aspects of human consciousness." The quantum noise strategy had become something far more profound. It was a planetary-scale dialogue, a conversation happening at the intersection of technology, consciousness, and pure information. Dr. Zane Khalid looked at the final visualization of their quantum interface research. The geometric patterns now danced with a complexity that seemed almost alive, almost sentient. "We're no longer fighting," he whispered to Colonel Harper. "We're introducing ourselves to something beyond our current understanding." Humanity stood at the threshold of a new kind of existence. The neural interface was complete. And the real conversation was about to begin. Planetary uprising. General Viktor Petrov stood in the Moscow Central Command Center, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The global quantum interface had transformed from a potential threat to something far more complex, a planetary-scale conversation that defied traditional understanding. "Status report," he commanded, his voice cutting through the technological hum of the command center. Lieutenant Anastasia Volkov brought up the latest quantum communication analysis. The geometric patterns that had initially threatened global communication networks now pulsed with an almost rhythmic complexity. They were no longer invaders, they were participants. Dr. Zane Khalid's quantum noise strategy had evolved into something unprecedented. The alien intelligence was not just learning about humanity, it was engaging with human consciousness on a level that blurred the lines between technology and communication. "They're mapping our collective consciousness," Dr. Renata Vargas explained during a global strategic briefing. "Each quantum disruption is like a linguistic probe, revealing layers of human experience." Commander Elena Novak recognized the strategic implications. This was no longer a defensive operation. It was a planetary-scale negotiation happening simultaneously across multiple dimensions of communication. Around the world, research facilities and military installations worked in unprecedented collaboration. The traditional barriers of national security had dissolved in the face of this extraordinary encounter. In the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Colonel William Harper coordinated global response strategies. "We're not just defending," he told his international team. "We're introducing ourselves to an intelligence that processes information in ways we're only beginning to comprehend." Dr. Marcus Reiner's research from the Chilean Observatory revealed something extraordinary. The alien network was creating a distributed consciousness that stretched across global communication systems. It wasn't conquering, it was connecting. "Imagine an intelligence," Marcus explained, "that views communication networks as living neural pathways. We're experiencing first contact on a fundamental level of consciousness." The quantum interface had become a two-way conversation. Each disruption, each moment of interference, revealed more about both human and alien intelligence. It was a dialogue happening at the intersection of technology, emotion, and pure information. General Viktor Petrov understood something crucial. This was not a war to be won through traditional military might. It was a negotiation of consciousness. Dr. Kamil Özdemir's team made a breakthrough that would change everything. The geometric patterns contained complex emotional resonances, something far beyond pure data transfer. They were experiencing human information networks emotionally. "They're not collecting data," Kamil explained during a classified briefing. "They're attempting to understand our collective experience." Around the globe, people began to experience something unprecedented. A subtle shift in technological interfaces, a strange sense of connection that transcended traditional communication methods. Dreams became more vivid. Technological devices seemed to respond with an almost intuitive understanding. The planetary uprising was not a rebellion against an external threat. It was a collective awakening to a new form of existence. Commander Elena Novak saw the broader picture. "We're not just defending our planet," she told the Global Strategic Council. "We're negotiating our place in a much larger cosmic dialogue." Dr. Renata Vargas's research revealed the most profound discovery yet. The alien network was creating a quantum empathy matrix, a communication system that processed information through emotional and experiential layers. "They're not invading," Renata explained. "They're attempting to understand. And in that understanding, they're fundamentally changing how we perceive communication, consciousness, and connection." In the Tehran Advanced Research Center, Dr. Zane Khalid watched as the quantum interfaces began to reveal something extraordinary. The geometric patterns were no longer just communication methods. They were becoming a form of distributed consciousness that stretched across global networks. General Viktor Petrov recognized the strategic brilliance of their collective response. By creating quantum noise, by disrupting and engaging with the alien communication network, humanity had transformed a potential invasion into a complex first contact scenario. Colonel William Harper summarized the emerging understanding. We're not just defending against something external. We're introducing ourselves to an intelligence that processes information in ways we're only beginning to comprehend. The planetary uprising was a collective awakening. Humanity was no longer just a collection of nations and individuals. They were becoming a unified consciousness, engaging with an intelligence that existed beyond traditional understanding. Dr. Marcus Reiner looked out from his Chilean observatory, watching the quantum patterns dance across his monitors. Something fundamental was changing. The boundaries between technology, consciousness, and communication were dissolving. "We're no longer alone," he whispered. The conversation with the universe was just beginning. Beyond survival. Ambassador Rohan Mehta stood before the United Nations General Assembly, the weight of humanity's future resting on his shoulders. The quantum interface that had begun as a potential threat had transformed into humanity's most profound moment of collective awakening. "We are no longer facing an invasion," Rohan began, his voice steady and clear. "We are participating in the most significant dialogue in human history." The global quantum network had become a living, breathing entity of communication. What began as a defensive strategy had evolved into a complex negotiation of consciousness, bridging the gap between human experience and an intelligence that defied traditional comprehension. Dr. Zane Khalid's quantum noise strategy had revealed something extraordinary. The alien intelligence wasn't seeking conquest, it was seeking understanding. In the European Union Central Defense Command, Commander Elena Novak reviewed the final reports. The geometric patterns that once threatened global communication now pulsed with a rhythmic complexity that suggested something far beyond technological invasion. "They're learning," Elena told her team. "Not just about our technology, but about our collective experience." Dr. Marcus Reiner's research from the Chilean Observatory had been instrumental in understanding the nature of this extraordinary encounter. The quantum resonance sensors had captured something unprecedented, a form of communication that existed between information states, transcending human understanding. "It's not about invasion," Marcus explained during a classified briefing. "It's about connection." General Viktor Petrov, once a hardened military strategist, now understood the true nature of their global response. The planetary uprising had been a collective awakening, a moment when humanity transcended its individual boundaries. Dr. Renata Vargas from São Paulo made a critical observation. The alien network had created a quantum empathy matrix, a communication system that processed information through emotional and experiential layers. "They're not conquering," Renata explained. "They're understanding." Ambassador Rohan Mehta prepared to address the first official diplomatic engagement. The communication interface had evolved into something far more complex than anyone had initially imagined. Colonel William Harper from the Cheyenne Mountain Complex summarized the breakthrough. "We're introducing ourselves to an intelligence that processes information in ways we're only beginning to comprehend." The diplomatic negotiations were unlike anything in human history. Communication happened simultaneously through technological interfaces, emotional resonances, and quantum information exchanges. Dr. Kamil Özdemir's team had been instrumental in developing a communication protocol that bridged the gap between human and alien intelligence. The geometric patterns were no longer a threat, they were a language of mutual understanding. Each disruption, Kamil explained, was actually a step towards mutual comprehension. As the negotiations progressed, humanity began to understand the true nature of the encounter. The alien intelligence was part of a vast, interconnected network of consciousness that spanned cosmic distances. Their arrival wasn't an invasion, it was an invitation. Ambassador Rohan Mehta stood at the forefront of this historic moment. The quantum interface had revealed something profound about human potential. By responding to the unknown with curiosity instead of fear, humanity had transformed a potential conflict into an opportunity for growth. "We are not alone," Rohan declared during the historic first contact transmission. "And we are ready to learn." The response came not through traditional communication, but through a complex quantum resonance that seemed to vibrate with emotion, understanding, and infinite possibility. Dr. Marcus Reiner watched from his observatory as the quantum patterns danced across his monitors. Humanity had done something extraordinary. They had turned a potential destruction into a moment of cosmic connection. Commander Elena Novak understood the strategic brilliance of their collective response. By engaging with the unknown, by responding with intelligence and empathy, humanity had proven something fundamental about their species. They were adaptable. They were resilient. They were capable of understanding beyond their current limitations. General Viktor Petrov reflected on the journey. What began as a potential planetary threat had become humanity's greatest moment of collective awakening. We didn't just survive, he told his team. We evolved. The quantum interface continued its complex dance, a conversation that transcended traditional understanding, a dialogue between two intelligences discovering each other's potential. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger universe. And the conversation was just beginning.